I'm Samantha Fallhaver, and we're going to do a hip mobility introduction here. So it's going to be a several-part series, but the first one that we're doing here is introducing you to your hips, which is different than everybody else's hips, and also identifying that each hip is individual on its own. So that's really important whenever you're training to have a lot of specificity, because if you're training in a position that you don't have the ability to access yet, you're not really going to get a lot of benefit off of that. So the important thing is, just like in jiu-jitsu, to put your ego aside, assess what's actually there, and do something about it from that case. I also have Cheyenne with me here, so I'm really excited about that. And
hold on.
Look at him. That's great. Thanks, guys. And I'm really excited that Elevate MMA was nice enough to let us come in and film with this, okay? And we'll shout out to two more sponsors for Jiu-Jitsu, and the pandas on my legs are presenting inverted gear today. All right, so the first thing, like I said, is identifying that you have hips, and that being separated from your pelvis. When I'm training Jiu-Jitsu, I do a lot of focus on people's pelvis because this is generally center of gravity. And so if you can displace a pelvis, you can displace a person. So it's like dodgeball. Right? And so we're going to do a lot of positions. We call this the 90-90 thing, but really all this is when I'm in this position, my front hip is in external rotation and my rear hip is in internal rotation, okay? So it doesn't really matter that you can get into a perfect position like this or get an angle that looks like my angle. If you are uncomfortable at any time during any of this stuff, it's really important that you change your angles and your positions in a way that suits you and make sure that you're not hurting something. Both because it's not like a pride thing, you're actually not going to get as much benefit if you're operating a position that you're uncomfortable in, because your nervous system's not going to register. It's distracted by either balancing you or the kink in your ribs or your back or whatever is going on. So we're going to show some regressions for different positions. But we're going to start with just identifying, separating your hip from your pelvis, okay? So I would like to see both of us if we could.
Yeah.
Let's get these. What we do have some tools we will be using at some point, foam rollers and that. So if we get into relatively the same position, yeah, okay. And I just want to point out a couple things. So my pelvis is this straight line going across here. So if I like feel both my hip bones, or you feel both your bones here, I'm just gonna rock that back and forth. So if you notice, I'm moving my hip bone forward, like that bony bit, forward and back a few times. This is your pelvis moving, okay? So just make sure that you can find that. Some people can't really separate that to begin with, so we're going to spend some real time. That's the point of this video, is that you have some real time follow along stuff, okay? So you're just going to rock back and forth, and this might feel good. Notice if you have any pain or pinching or anything like that, okay? You could even kind of do this sitting in a chair with rocking back and forth as well, okay? And then let's do one more thing. We're going to separate the low back from the pelvis as well, just to kind of sequence that. So you flop onto your back here. And let's go sideways, so all right, and just rocking your pelvis up. So what I'd like to see is, if I put my hand under Cheyenne's low back here, okay, I'm gonna do it on the other side so that you can see here. I'm putting my hand right under his low back, and I want him to create some pressure there. So you're gonna push down and tilt your butt up. So tuck your tailbone and keep pressure on my hand. Try that again, okay? So this is actually, I'm really glad that I didn't tell him this was gonna happen, because this is what happens a lot of times. All right? So he's pushing down here and tucking his tailbone underneath. So lift your butt off the ground without losing my hand. Yes, awesome, good. Can you do that 2 more times, please? Right? And he doesn't need my hand there, but it's just a nice cue to have. You could put a washcloth, or you could just put your own hand, or not at all. You could just think about driving your low back into the ground, okay? And the other way would be to extend the tailbone and lift the low back off my hand. Yes. Cool. So this is separating just that he has some identity between his pelvis and his lower back. Let's do that back and forth one more time. So grooving up and then coming down. Awesome. And once we're on your own, great. Really important for things like finishing arm bars, and the ability to dissociate the segments of your back is really important for your spinal health, which we'll cover some in later videos as well. And all right, you don't have to have a foam roller. I've done this with like putting a yoga block or a ball between your knees or something like that, but I want to identify something here. So when you're looking at internal rotation of the hip, okay, and most people don't have a whole lot of it, and you can watch me do it first before we go, okay? I'm going to just pinch this between my knees, and I'm going to do one hip at a time to show you. So one leg is just going to stay pinched against the block, and then I'm going to rotate my heel out to the side. Now, because of this pinch, I can't kick my hip out. See, like this is not helping me. One leg is going to stay forward. That's the pelvis moving, which we just discussed a little bit before. I want to see what the femur in the socket can do to rotate. So that's what we're looking for our hip rotation, not that we can move our back and forth. So if I'm pinching here and I just pivot my heel out to the side, that is my active internal rotation on that side. Okay, and if I do the same thing on the other side, there's my active internal rotation on that side. Okay, if you feel any strain anywhere or something, notice where you're, like, if your foot feels like it's drilling really hard, it's just a little bit of bleed and maybe not what you asked for. I want you to be able to identify what it feels like to only rotate from the femur and the socket. Okay, and I can do both at once, and you can see there is a difference between both sides. Right? So Sharon, let's have you do that as well. So you just have this block here, and just rotate, one side or the other, doesn't matter. And just hold for a second. And where are you feeling that?
For like on the outside.
Okay.
Right there.
And what does it feel like to you, if you could describe it? Does it feel like any pain or pinching is always my first question.
No pain or pinching.
Okay. Just that's what's being used to rotate out?
Right.
Okay, cool. And then what about the other side?
Seems pretty underutilized.
Good stuff. You feel like a little bit more limited on this side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where do you feel this?
Same kind of area. I could like right like this hip area. I feel like there's some bleed definitely with the foot, like you mentioned earlier.
Cool. Yeah. Now, can you move it without the foot engaging?
Yeah. Here we go.
Good. And one thing I can say that can help with that is go back to just square. Okay. Think about trying to squeeze these muscles first. Okay. So you've done that before you did any movement. So it's an isometric contraction, meaning there's just no movement, but there's muscular engagement. And go ahead and try to reach out again using the muscles you just squeezed. You feel like you were able to identify it anymore? No?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's do it one more time. And how about both of them, so you can see kind of the difference on both sides? Cool. All right, good stuff. Now, stay right here. Thank you. I'll get this down. You can straighten this leg for me. Okay, so one thing that's really important too, and you can get a friend to help you assess this, like the important thing is that you're not hurting anybody, right? So I'm not gonna grab his leg and pull it or anything like that. I'm looking for whether or not, like we discussed, the pelvis, let's hold that for a second. I'm looking for whether or not his pelvis starts to shift up and down, do these things, so there's other things you can play with about pelvic movement, right? I just want that spin here to see what he can actually do in the joint itself, okay? So if I keep his leg in one position, so I'm growing the side and I start to pull his heel towards me, I'm going to make sure we have good communication, and he tells me if anything hurts or anything feels iffy. If you feel iffy, I count that as pain. So you can't go through that, it kind of hurts but it doesn't hurt enough thing, you stupid jiu-jitsu people. All right, you're going to have, no, I love you all. But if you build on, like, brick versus building on sand, you're going to get a lot better results, right? So if you're trying to work on your mobility and you're kind of like, I would rather you err on the side of strong and stable than trying to build something that's going to just break later, okay? So think about that. So I'm just going to pull out, I just want to see how far he gets before, see I'm going nice and slow and gentle, and I'm just keeping his knee here so that we're not falling out to the side because I want to see pure rotation. And we're also making sure that the act of bringing his knee up alone doesn't create a pinching or any issue in his hip crease, right? So if he had that, I would bring him down to a lower level and test his rotation down here, as long as he didn't have any pain at that, okay? Hopefully everybody's following along. We're still going on. We just keep backing out until we find something that doesn't hurt. And if you're having that much pain and issue, you might probably want to go see somebody that's not on a videotape so they can assess you. All right. Thank you, Cheyenne, for the thumbs up there. All right. I knew I had you here for a reason. Now, I'm going to, this is awesome, actually, the way his pants are, how there's the elevate on the side here. So as we rotate, you can see that kind of coming around the corner. So you can see that the thigh itself is pivoting, right? Now, when we get to his end range, which means that it stopped moving, it's not moving anymore, I'm going to ask him again, where do you feel is stopping you from going any farther? If you could feel it. I'm going to push as hard as I need to, just gently, until he feels something accurately. Just not getting any sensation yet? Not clear?
That's iffy right there.
Okay, now, where do you feel is stopping you?
Like right there.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, now what does it feel like? Does it feel like a stretch?
Like
or does
a
it
pinch.
feel like a pinch?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's important. So he has what we call I'm rotating into this direction, right? So that's a closing angle pinch. So that's not great for him, and we're gonna make sure that we work off of any range that feels like a pinching thing, and I'm gonna probably talk to him about some soft tissue stuff later, like working around the muscles and helping that open up, because when you have two joints, they should be able to spin around each other, as opposed to going like a pinch is where you feel like something's running into the other something else, okay? And just to compare with the other side, Straighten this leg in. So here, I have him up at a 90. We've made sure that as we bring it up, it doesn't feel like anything bad. I'm also gonna so hold your leg here. I'm gonna let go just so that we know he can actually hold it. Because some people will jack themselves up in jiu-jitsu and they'll bury themselves underneath of somebody and then they can't hold it there themselves, right? There's a big difference between your active and your passive range. Active range of motion is what we want for jiu-jitsu, meaning that you can hold yourself there without somebody putting you there, right? Spent a lot of time, a lot of years being passively flexible, where I just thought, oh, I'll just stretch stuff, and you can't pass my guard because I'm doing a split, but I can't do anything about it now. That's it. All right, so I'm pulling this out here, and again, let me know when we hit something that feels like something to you, if you can tell which side is stopping you from rotating. And see how much farther this side went, for sure. So we got some information there, and that's important for his training inputs about where he's going to start for things, okay? And where do you feel is stopping you?
The same kind of hip.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Cool. All right, so that is assessing internal rotation on yourself, and that would be this rear leg, and similarly to what we just did, picking that heel up without the pelvis here. Okay, so if I rolled this forward, that didn't change the rotation of the femur in the socket, even though it lifts my heel up. So I can put that into place and then try to lift, or just focus on keeping this still, squeezing the muscles, and pulling up like that, okay? So let's try that a couple times. External rotation, I'm gonna use the wall as a really easy tool here. If you have a squat rack or something you could settle up against. It's just creating a block for you to do on your own if you don't know somebody with you. So I'm gonna snug my hip up against the wall, and then make sure I have my thigh kind of married to it here. From this position, I can rotate my heel off of the wall, and that'll be my active external rotation. Same thing, I'm paying attention to what muscles I'm trying to use. I'm not kicking myself out to the side, just pulling that heel off, keeping the knee in a stationary point, okay? So let's have Cheyenne do that. Okay. So make sure that it's a thing that makes sense to people. Cool, so right here, and he's pulling his hip up. Now, what can you see already this would be useful for jiu-jitsu?
Triangles?
Triangles, yeah, triangles, all sorts of like guard, right? Anything, so having a good external rotation is gonna be really helpful for that. Cool, okay. And could we?
Okay, one sec.
Maybe like that side and this side.
Which side?
Maybe like.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
So you may find trying to assess your external rotation actively on the ground is much more difficult if you're lacking external rotation like I am. So me trying to do what we just did on the wall, because I'm already pre-rotated here, right? So like this is straight on, so already pulled it that far. So by the time I get to here trying to lift the heel off the ground, it's very sad. And my foot tries to do all sorts of help for me, so I'm like, okay, can I just find this? Right, working on there. So it was yours like,
Not much better.
yeah, so if I want to do this here, I'm just going to keep leaning out to bring my spine in alignment with that, so I'm not pre-ring until I get to a range that I can actually lift up. Okay, and similarly for the other side, I got to lean way the heck out here, and I already know this about myself. Look at that. Okay. So you've already assessed your rotation, and now we want to get into training it, right?
Hold on
So-
one second, hold on one second. Sorry. I'll cue you up.
Okay.
So, sorry, I'm not trying to make this more complicated. So we've already done external rotation, and you're ready, so you can just
Okay.
pick up from there.
All right, so you've already assessed your internal external rotations. You have some idea of what is happening with your body, and hopefully you're able to dissociate the rotation of your thigh with the rotation of your entire pelvic girdle here, right? So let's get into actually training everything. So we're gonna start with a warm-up, and we're gonna do hip card, which Shannon has done quite a few times with me, and I wanna discuss the idea of prerequisite movement. So I'm gonna cue this from a quadruped position, but a lot of people don't have the wrists to really be in this position anyway. So whenever I'm talking to clients, we're going over like what shape can your body actually make before we shove it into position. So just like saying that active versus passive range thing, like I can go into 90 degrees of wrist extension. Most people that I come across can't, right? So pretty nice, good job. Alright? So let's say like you've got something that looks more like this, and that's as far as you can go and you can't lift anymore, and then you shove your joint into that position. That load is going to be taken on by something, often putting strain on a different joint. Or maybe if you're flexible enough, but like I can pull it here, and then as soon as I let go, it flops to there. That shows that, like one of my friends says, it's like having a car that can go 100 miles an hour, but the brakes stop at 80, right? So I have a huge range of motion that I can't actually control, which can be a real problem, and your body can't put the brakes on, so it's not going to be confident, and you're more likely to get injured if you have a lot of passive flexibility, because you get into positions that you try to do something about and you wrench something, right? So what I want you to do is actually just keep you're going to find a quadruped position, but one in which you can actually lift the knuckles of your hand off of the ground so that we know you're in a position that you actually own, right? So if I trim all the way to here, I'm not going to kill myself, but we're going to be working here for a few minutes, and just want to make sure that I'm not loading any joints in a way that doesn't reflect my philosophy, right? So you could be walked all the way up to here, and that's fine. And notice I didn't do this to raise my, it's going to be separate. Okay, let's assess that for you. Cool, elbows are nice and straight. All right, so we're going to set Zion up for a hip-controlled articular rotation, which is a big thing in the FRC community. So he's got his shoulders, his hands underneath the shoulders, and he's got his knees relatively underneath his hips. Can you bring your knees a little more under your hips? Cool, so you guys got the straight thing. And remember we talked about being able to separate your hips from your back? Really common thing is people do a lot of motion from the back and not from the hips here. So I'm going to use the foam roller as a feedback tool for him here. And he's actually got such long legs. Okay. Here we go. And I'm just gonna, there we go. You could use a shoe, you could use a pillow, you can use anything. You can use like a yoga block or something like that. This is kind of a mean tool here because it's gonna be pretty sensitive because it's rolling, but we're gonna see how it goes. Alright. And I'm just gonna ask them to do a couple of different things to activate. So can you take your right leg, keep your knee on the ground for now, and just pivot your heel out to the side? Yes, good. So this is the internal rotation that we played with before with the feedback from the ground, okay? And just to come that back and forth a couple times. And as he pulls his heel across towards me, that's going to be external rotation. And go back out again, internal rotation. Okay, the reason I'm asking him to try this first is it can be kind of tricky. I'm also noticing whether or not he starts wagging his tail. He's trying to keep this nice and still as that goes out, and he's doing a great job, okay? Now, can you just barely, so pause for a second, can you just barely lift your knee off of the ground on that side? It could be out to the side a little bit. Cool. And then rotate just like you just did. So the knee stays in place, heel comes out to the side. I'd like you to do this drill first with us. Hopefully you're already doing that, or you can rewind, to make sure that I can identify what internal rotation in the air is, okay? All right, go ahead and put that back down. So we're going to go through 4 different positions. One, I'm going to ask you to bring your knee into your chest. And then I'm going to ask you to bring your knee out to the side like a fire hydrant. Then we're going to do internal rotation, and then we're going to kick all the way back into extension, okay? Breaking it down just a little further to make it easier for the folks at home, we're going to do one piece at a time. So hips are staying square. He's not flopping back and forth. His hip bones are facing the ground the whole time, and he's not rounding his back. This can be really difficult. So you're going to tense your abs like you're doing a crunch, or somebody's going to come over and hit you in the belly, okay? So tense the abs up. And squeeze the rest of your body. Let that tension kind of ride through the rest of you, creating a really stable platform that's also going to help you identify where you're getting your movement from, okay? So he's got his back engaged, his shoulders are engaged, his fingertips are gripping into the ground a little bit, right? And his triceps are on line here too, okay? So with that leg that's closer to the camera again, can you just slowly start to bring your knee towards your chest? And that's about where we stop, right? Do that again, come back. And knees to the chest, and pause there. That's where you feel that feedback from the foam roller, where the back starts to round underneath. It's usually a lot less than you think it is. Trust me, I've cried over this with my ego plenty of times, okay? And then, keeping that knee bent, can you start to sweep it behind you? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have keyed this a little better. So we're just going to go forward and back to start.
Okay.
Okay, so knee into the chest, and then sweep it behind you, going into as much hip extension as you can, as if you were running. Great, and that's about where it starts to sag in the belly. Cool, okay? Almost nobody in today's day and age has great true hip extension because we're also stuck in the positions that we are in most frequently. So practice this stuff more often, you'll have more options, okay? Bring the knee back to the chest. Let's do this 3 times. Pause there, good. Brace yourself a little stronger, so you're gonna learn a little more every time, okay? Knee back. Yeah, you gotta fight it. And Cheyenne's great about being particular too, so I wouldn't be surprised if your stuff is falling off your back a long time ago at home. Okay, knee back to the chest. One more time. And all the way back. Great. Okay. Now, another tricky one. Knee back down to square. You're just going to go into back and forth between fire hydrants. So it's going to be knee out to the side and then back down, okay? Now, the tricky part with this is you're going to want to shift into one leg. You're into one table leg or not. So elbows are going to stay straight. Hip bones are facing the floor the whole time as he brings his knee out to the side, okay? So squeeze everything. Lock yourself down strong. You've got a nice strong base here. Your whole body feels great. And knee out to the side, please. Yep, and that's about where we get before it starts to tilt. Come back down. Let's do that 4 times. Okay, same thing we prayed before. Maybe you want to squeeze here first, and then use those muscles to pull you out to the side. Yep, elbow straight, elbow straight. Great job. And back down. Good, we're getting cleaner every time. Squeeze and go. Hip bones stay facing down. Yes, and down. One more. And you're going to pause at the top there, okay? So just like we practiced before, can you hover your knee in that position and bring your heel towards you? Yeah, that's that internal rotation we just played with. And just go back and forth there 2 times. Good. He's trying to keep his knee basically in one spot and pull the heel towards his armpit, okay? Putting that all together, bring that knee back down. Okay, so those are quarter cars. We just broke it up into a couple different positions there. So brace yourself. Knee is into your chest. Ooh, you're okay. Like I said this is a mean target. Out to the side. Pause. Internally rotate. Good. And now kick it back into extension. So you're just connecting all the dots that we just played with. Okay? Bring it back, knee to chest. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Watch it. Out to the side. Internally rotate. And all the way back. Good. I'm going to take the target off just so you can see what it feels like without. In. Stay braced. Abs are tight. Nice. Out to the side. Internally rotate. And back. Last one. In. Out. Rotate. And back. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Now, go ahead and watch me do the other side. And I would like you, actually, so watch me do it twice, and then I'd like you to pick up on anything that you see that I'm doing to compensate. So it's a little bit of like a pop quiz we're doing here. Alright, so, and I'll try not to be too crazy obvious about stuff. Okay, so talking about the different positions that we're in, I'm on all fours. I've made sure that my wrists can operate in this position. My elbows are going to stay straight. Okay, I'm trying to keep my back flat. And it's all, like I said, I always learn stuff by watching myself all the time, so I'm sure I'm not going to do it perfectly either. But I'm going to start off by bringing my heel to my butt just so that I've got a nice stable position. I'm going to keep my hip bones facing the floor, and I'm going to bring my knee in towards my chest. And Sharon, tell me as soon as you see me doing something besides just bringing my knee to my chest, okay? So if you see any other joints moving.
It's like your back's starting to round.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, go ahead and pause me as soon as you see that again, okay?
Okay. Pause.
Awesome. Good. And then I'm going to sweep it back.
Sagging hips.
There we go. Exactly. Belly started to come towards the floor, okay? I'm going to do that again. I'm going to brace myself a little stronger this time, see if I can keep it more honest. So I'm going to squeeze into the ground. Abs are tight. I can feel my ribs engaged. I've got my shoulders on line. My other leg is active into the floor. Great. I'm going to squeeze here tight. Is that pretty honest?
That was
cool.
Yeah.
All right, so then you get to, like, when you start to get honest about it and you also have enough feedback and practice, you start to be able to assess yourself, and it doesn't go as far as you wish it would. All right, so coming out to the side, same kind of thing. Let me know if you see any different movement, okay? So I'm here. I'm going to think about hip bones facing the floor, and I'm trying to get this knee away from my other hips. I'm kind of thinking about that. So here I'm going out into my fire hydrant.
Your lower back's kind of compensating.
Exactly. Good stuff. So that hip shift.
Your upper body, or your upper back.
Mm-hmm.
Your lower arm.
Common things that people do. Okay, so I'm going to try to stay really strong and square. And that's all I got. Right? So I'm not shifting my tail to the side. I'm not dipping over the side. I'm not bending my elbow. All these things, nothing moves. I started using this in class yesterday. Actually, like, you should be so strong that if a car hit you, that the car is going to break, right? So the rest of my body's engaged. I'm here. I'm going to reach out to the side. The rest of my body is super strong, okay? Then my internal rotation is hovering that knee in place. And we'll see if I can feed anything in here. See how the tail kind of whips with it. Again, that's the pelvis rotating, not just that rotating in place. So bringing it all together. I'm here. Go ahead and put the foam roller on my back. Let's see if I can do it. Just to be fair. Or, I don't even know if I can. All right. So bracing strong. Yeah, that is hard. And I have slippery material too, doesn't it? Being super honest sucks, guys, but I'm glad. All right, see that tiny little circle that I did? Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna do that on both sides. So let's do our other hips together real quick and even them out. So, yeah, how about you do that? Can we do, like, I'll be front and you'll be side view or something like that? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Or does it look shitty?
I mean, I'm seeing the front of you and I'm seeing the side of. Here, I gotta get to
Okay, it seems okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, as long as the front, yeah, no, yeah, that works.
Just making sure it doesn't look bad.
No, it looks good. Yeah.
And not that you could ever make us look bad, I know. But, alright. So, taking the hip that we didn't work yet, okay, I'm going to bring knee into, so keep your back nice and strong. Abs are tight, knee into chest. Sweep it back into extension. We're just going to do the same routine that we did on the other side. Pull the knee into the chest again, keeping the back strong. Sweep it back into extension. One more time, into chest. Don't let anything change. Back. Working on stability everywhere. And back to square. Okay, now we're going to go out to the side. So make yourself nice and strong and stable. Abs are tight, shoulders are tight, everything's engaged. Pull my heel to my butt. Let's squeeze that out to the side and do a fire hydrant. And back down. Number 2. And down. 3. And down. And 4. And now from here, keep that out to the side. Can you pull your heel towards your armpit without kicking your hips out? And back. Let's do that once more. Kick it out. And back. Okay? Now we're just going to connect all those dots together. Take a nice deep breath. You're getting a workout already, aren't you? All right, so squeeze the abs, squeeze the fingertips, everything's strong. Knee into chest. Out to the side. I want you to pause at each range. So you're trying to get the most you can. Heel to the sky. And sweep it back into extension. Knee to chest. Out to the side. Internally rotate. And out to the back. One more time. Knee to chest, back is flat. Out to the side, max that out. Rotate, max that out. And all the way back. Whew, and down. Trying to do those super strict is a lot of work. Alright, so now that you're warm, we're almost done with this first segment of the series we're going to do. We're going to come down into the actual 90-90 position. And we're going to do a Shinbox actually to start. So that's going to bring my heel and my knee together. So applicable to things like doing your single leg X guard. So stand up for a second. Sorry, just a couple things. It's like we're kind of doing this where I'm up, right? And I'm locked in to my knee, to my heel right there. What am I doing? Right. What am I doing? Man, I got lost. Obviously, this is an edited out part.
Yeah.
I was like, you're so tall. I'm messing myself up. Okay. I know what this position is. I just brain farted for a second. Okay. So like if I go into single leg X guard and I bring my hips really up, I'm bringing this heel and this knee together. That's a really great position to maintain. And it makes it, just having that visceral connection between those two pieces can make it a little easier for me to keep everything pinched tight versus him trying to push everything apart and separate my legs, okay? I also think about that for when I'm doing mounted triangles. Go on your back. Let's get your head over there. Here. If I'm coming up here and coming into a mounted triangle position, if I can lock my heel to my ankle, I picked that up from Hillary Williams years ago. If you can just get to here, you have a good chance of finishing the rest of it because having that glued together feels really strong. So we're going to practice making that strong, which of course then I can turn into the full triangle. Again, coming attractions. All right. So we're here on one side. I'm going to just dig my heel and my knee together. And I'd like you to just start creating a force between those two. So it doesn't look like anything's happening, but I feel the engagement between those two things, okay? This again is an isometric contraction, no movement is happening. So just hold that for 10 or 20 seconds. Just kind of letting stuff wake up a little bit. So I'm keeping a steady pressure between the two. Make sure you can breathe. All this stuff is important that you're doing in ranges that you can actually breathe calmly, because if you're kind of surviving the position, like, you're gonna get tired fast and you're not gonna, again, your brain's distracted by trying to survive as opposed to getting better. All right, and now instead of just letting it out all of a sudden, I'd like you to let it out slowly. So pretend you like put a pin in a balloon and it's just kind of like, or a tire rather, because that would just pop a balloon. Here, that's so funny. Thank you. Come on, you're here to laugh. All right. Thank you. All right.
Oh, God.
So let's do this. This is the best video ever now. All right.
He did the laugh yesterday during the seminar.
You didn't?
Someone I did. Someone made me laugh. I don't know.
He's being shown to you.
Oh man, good stuff. So I'd like you to play with them one more time. We're gonna slowly create pressure. I'm gonna hold it and slowly let it out. So doing the ramping contraction instead of going, I'm just gonna hold this really strong, is super important for your ability to control how much effort you're using and for educating your muscles and your brain connection to your muscles. Okay, so instead of just going 0 to 100, I'm gonna give you a 5 count. You're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're slowly increasing the pressure. You're gonna hold that top pressure for 10 seconds, and then we're gonna let it out for 5. We're gonna do this 3 times, so that the first time you do it, you're probably gonna not do a great job. All right, so we're gonna repeat it a few. All right, so try to make it smooth and even, going from 1 to 5, hold at the top, and then down from 5 to 1. Okay, ready? And slowly begin to increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Decreasing for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay.
Sam, just real quick. It's not really translating to camera what you're doing.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe because I don't understand any of this. Is that it?
Are you following?
I'm following.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the movement, like we're not, like, am I supposed to be seeing anything happen?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, that's not true. I'm not seeing anything.
Absolutely.
It's isometric.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. I just wanted this to be honest.
I joke a lot that Kinshasa should look stupid.
No, I just wanted to be honest because I'm like, am I missing something? Like, what am I not
Try
seeing?
to home, man.
It's actually like pretty hard to like.
No, I get it. I didn't know if I was just missing an angle, and I'm like, okay. All right. Back to regular programming. Go ahead.
I've actually that's not. I wouldn't even mind having that in because that's such an important thing. Because like I often joke that Kinshasa looks stupid, or like a lot of these things do this because you're just like a bunch of people like standing there like making faces and like nothing looks like it's happening, and you're like, I'm trying so hard. But that's what it is. It's an isometric. So your nervous system has an awful lot of space taken up by the vestibular system and making sure you're not falling down, right? So any movement is potentially a risk, right? So movement is risky, but that's where you get rewards. But in your initial training, doing an isometric is like the safest thing your nervous system knows. To contract the muscle without anything actually moving will give you that stable base that we were talking about to build on, okay? So I'm finding what I'm using. And also because I'm not moving, I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna pull my heel in by moving something else or doing those compensations. I'm isolating exactly the stuff that I want to use. And right here, where do you feel stuff working when you're playing with this?
This isometric right here.
Yeah, with this that we just played with.
It's like this internal like hip area. Kind of.
Anything else?
Like quads here.
Cool. Yeah. So like you're getting a bit of hamstring and around here, you're getting this. Now whatever you're feeling working, is why it's also important for self-assessment, is probably going to be the thing that needs to work the most, or it might be the thing that does work the most. So it's just kind of information. Like, so if you have something that's sore, like say that Cheyenne came to me and was like, yeah, I've been having some difficulty with the quad here, like I'm getting really tight and I don't know how to lose it, and we do something like this, maybe as part of something else we're doing, and he's like, yeah, this just, the only thing I feel working is here. I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, because that's the thing you're having trouble with. It's probably the only thing doing work in this hip complex. So let's try to find some other muscles. So let's try a couple different angles and see what you feel. So can be crossbody, can be this, whatever's more comfortable for your back. You're gonna take a hand to this knee, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing. We're gonna pull up here, but I'm gonna have a locked out joint, just like you have a frame in jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm gonna make sure I don't have any pain, and then I can generate some power. I'm gonna pull up into the hand. So we're gonna do the same thing. Let's do a 5, 10, 5. We'll do this twice, okay? Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay? We're going to do it again. Try to be smoother. Now, one more thing I want to say, if you get to number 3 and you feel pain somewhere, that's your ceiling. I don't care that I'm counting to 5. I don't care that I was counting to 100. Your ceiling is going to be that number 3, and the next time you'll try to ramp it to that point. Okay? So we're not training through pain ever. Right? At least for this video. Right? Okay. So ready? Respecting our bodies and engage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and slowly down. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If you cramp, I'm proud of you. That means you're exploring a range of motion or an engagement your body's not familiar with. Keep it up, it'll get better. Now, can you do both of those? I'm going to kind of contract heel to knee and pull this up. If something doesn't feel good for you here, I would recommend doing something like sitting on a block or sitting on a foam roller, right? Something I should have said earlier, right? So in this position, or even in a seated position here, I could be pulling it off this way, doing this so that I can find somewhere that I don't feel discomfort, right? So we've got all these options: leaning out to the side, propping a hip up, figuring out a configuration that you can work in, okay? So one more time, we're gonna try to do heel in and pulling up. So nothing is moving, we're just creating this tension between all of these things. 5 count up, 10 count hold, and 5 count down. Ready? Your number 1 or 2, try to make it like so soft you're like barely engaged, okay? Ready? So let's just hold that 1 count for a second. So we're here, tiny bit of pressure, you're like barely noticing. It's like you're trying to like slip out of bed without waking your dog up kind of thing. Like, oh, I just barely move here. And slowly increase 2, 3, slower count, 4, and 5. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7. Increase if you can. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow release. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Let all tension out if you can. Do one more time, and then we're going to switch sides. Okay? Ready? Increasing 1. Hold that low level pressure for a second. Get your baby steps. Let that all wake up. Sometimes it feels like stuff coming online. Increasing 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hold for 10. Harder if you can. 9, 8, 7, 6. Increase. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay? Now, can you lift without anything else moving? So I'm keeping the rest of my body totally still. This hand's going to be a kickstand. Can you lift that leg off of the ground? Try again. 2. Let's do 5. 3, 4, and 5. Good job. And every time you do that, you're going to work on not crunching or doing anything else. It's only movement happening from there, okay? So open your back knee, Notice we didn't roll the pelvis, we're just keeping this forward and opening the knee, what that looks like. Great, and then we're gonna switch over to the other side. Since it's a follow along, I just want you to do this together, okay? So starting off, don't have to do as much talking, knee pinch into the heel. Find an angle that works for you, that you don't have pain or pinching or distraction anywhere else, and begin to contract. We're gonna go right into, we're gonna hold it for 20-30 seconds like we did the other side just to warm it up. So go ahead and just find something that's a comfortable level of contraction for you between those 2 points. And make sure you can breathe. If you want to play with the level of contraction you're doing, go ahead on your own. This is kind of your free play. You're using your front leg in external rotation. A few more seconds. Nice and steady. And soften out of that. Okay? Do you feel anything different on this side? Or is it about the same
It's
kind
about
of
the
areas? Okay, so kind of here and then quad again on this side. Okay, cool. All right, so now we're gonna do just the pulling in here with a ramp. 5, 10, 5. Ready? First rep, just the pulling the heel and the knee together. Ready? 1, hold that low level. 2, 3, 4, 5, hold for 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, releasing for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Definitely let out too much on my first 5 countdown. I was like, wait, I'm done. All right, so repeating again, and increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold, 10, 9, increase if you can, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release 2, and 1. Okay, adding the hand, just this first for now. So here, ready, you're gonna increase up, and actually just find it first. So like I have much worse external rotation this side, so I know it takes a little more time for me to kind of find the muscles that I wanna work, because it's like, what are you talking about? We never do this. All right, so slowly just increase into your hand and just kind of find for you something that feels good and active, you have no pain, and just hold that tension for a few seconds just to kind of warm everything up, wake it all up. And wherever you are, go ahead and start to soften. Good, and let's do the conscious count together, okay? Shake anything out that you need to at any time. And begin, 5 count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, one more time here. Brace yourself a little. The more the rest of your body is engaged, the more bang for your buck you're going to get here, because it's called neural drive. Like the amount of energy you're expending is going to make it more likely to stick, right? Which is also why when you're not expending any energy and you're just passively stretching and stuff, you're not getting the same results. Ready? And begin up for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay? Go ahead and pull that heel in. We're going to do both now, if you can. Ready? And hold that low level pressure 1 on both of them so you can find everything. And begin to increase 2, 3, 4, 5. Max it out for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow release. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Got 2 more. begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maxed out, 10, 9, find more, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, slow release, 4, 3, 2, 1. A smart thing to do too, if you have like some yoga blocks or something, if this leaning out isn't working for you, you could prop yourself up on a block or ball or something that feels stable for you to be here, okay, if this lean doesn't work for you. Great, and one last time. Brace yourself, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Did I say 1 or 2 more? Was that the last one?
That was awesome.
Okay, good stuff. Alright. Alright, so the last 2 things I'm going to ask of you today, we're going to do a little bit of a hip mobility series. You'll see people do this a lot in warm-ups. They just like kind of flop back and forth, but we're going to do a more mindful version of that, and you're going to be so excited about it, okay? And we're going to add a hip stretch. So put yourself in a position that you feel comfortable with in this front leg. Again, you could be really knee out to the side, and you can use your hands for support. We're going to start off with finding the ability to pull ourselves into this. So all that contraction we just worked, right? You can always put your hand back here to replace what the knee was doing, to find that contraction in. You can put hand here, all that. So if you lost the ability to find what we just did, right? You could always give yourself a tactile cue. But without that, can you find engagement in that front leg as if you were pulling up and in without letting anything move? So you have your invisible walls in place, so to speak. You got that? Cool. All right. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to think about reaching my butt backwards. Remember we talked about that untuck your tail, tuck your tail. It's all coming into play here. It's like a video game we were playing. All right. So I'm going to try to tip my pelvis forward now, like I'm reaching my butt back and behind me. Right? And again, making sure there's no pain. I'm engaging this leg like we just practiced. So I'm squeezing it in, invisible wall, nothing is moving. Tilting the pelvis back. Do you feel a stretch in that front hip?
Yeah.
Okay, especially, is it towards the back side? Okay, great. We're looking for that posterior capsule stretch here, okay, and no pain or pinching. So I'd like you to pretend there's like a wall here. Your chest is gonna stay tall, and I'm gonna try to pull my belly using this. I'm reeling myself in, contracting the whole time, pulling my belly forwards over top of my thigh, or if you can, if you have the ability to reach towards your calf without anything hurting, do that. Try to keep that chest tall. And again, you could use your hands here. The meaner you want to be to yourself, the taller you're going to make the lever. So I'm just kind of being here. Wherever you find your bottom. Now, don't move anything. I want you to start pushing into the floor. So my ankle, my shin, and my knee are all pressing down. Feel that? So we haven't moved, but you should feel a distinct change in direction. Now use that. Crush the ground as you press yourself back up. Okay? Now, from here, I'm still pressing into the ground. I'm not losing that. I'm going to open my back knee. So don't lose this pressure into the ground. Adjust your back foot if you need to. Open that back knee. So I'm pushing into the ground here, and I'm actively opening this side. Okay? And one thing that I want to introduce to you, if you can't find this stuff, take your hand to your backside and do a quick isometric up into your hand. You could have a friend push here, like if your arms aren't fitting right, it feels awkward, you could put a weight on top of it that you can't actually lift, and just gradually push up into your hand. So same concept we did before, it's just helping me find the muscles that I want to work. Right, so you kind of feel this stuff opening up there. Super fun. Right, now take the hand away and try to continue using those muscles to contract to open up as I'm still pressing down. Okay, and then I'm gonna ask the camera guy for a second. It's gonna look like this full press, like that. So what do you think we should
Looks
do?
good.
Okay, it's gonna go here. All right. Okay. So keeping everything active the whole time is the whole point here. No mindless movement. This is about specificity in your training and getting better hips, okay? So nothing hurts. If I got to a certain point and I'm like, that doesn't feel great, even though I can go farther, that's my end range, and that's where we're gonna respect, okay? Because you're gonna get better results if you work with your body, right? So I'm pressing down here. I'm opening up the back leg. until I cannot open it anymore, right? I think about pushing down into the floor with this, and then I'm going to roll to my butt, but my knees are going to stay allergic to each other, so I'm going to have them as far away from each other as I can. I'm still kind of digging my heels into the ground, so I have some activity here, just like we played with the heel into our knee before. Keep this knee as far away as you can as you start to roll into that other knee. Try to reach the floor with this knee as soon as you can, and then keep actively pulling into the ground here as you drive that knee to the ground. And we're twinsies. Okay. Now from here, so you just get another view of this, okay? I'm going to contract this front leg, just like we just practiced. If you need, you can put your hand behind your heel, and here to find that engagement again, I'm going to reach my butt back. So I'm anteriorly tilting my pelvis, like I'm spilling something out of a bowl here, right? So again, can you find a stretch on that front hip? Okay. If you can't, think about reaching your butt back more. You can have a friend put their foot here for you to try to reach back into, change your angle, all this stuff, okay? If you have difficulty finding it without pain, just do whatever motion you can without it. So from here, contract the front leg, okay? Chest stays tall, belly starts reaching forward, reaching the butt back. Actively engage the whole time. Now, that front leg, when you find your bottom, which is different than me flopping down like this. I'm just thinking about the hip. I don't care about what my spine's doing right now. Press into the ground with your ankle, your knee, and your shin. Try to be even with that pressure. If you want, you could always put an object underneath, like a towel or something to push down into if that feels good. Once you feel that engagement, press into the ground, crush the ground, and now use that crushing to push yourself out.
Here, I'll come around the other side.
You're switching back? Okay.
Oh, you are switching back?
Yeah, we're going back and forth.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So I don't know what works best for you. That's kind of was like,
Sorry.
you're good.
Pick up where you're going.
Okay. So from here, I'm still crushing into the ground with that front leg, digging this back foot into the floor. You can roll up on your heel or your toe, whatever feels comfortable to you, but I'm trying to keep some pressure into the ground, separating my knees as far as I can. And if you need to, you could, the more you lean back, the easier this is going to be, but the hip positioning stuff still feels the same, okay? So the taller I am, the more challenging it is. Okay, actively keeping those apart. Bring that back down one time so we can do an isometric for this side. See if it feels different. Pushing the hand on top, pressing up into the hand. Long enough that you start to feel all this stuff working, right? So whatever compensatory patterns, whatever your low back was trying to do, we're going to ask specifically for this.
Who was that?
Time to wake up.
Oh.
It's okay. We're almost done. Last time. We're just going to switch back and forth like 2 more times and then okay. So this thing, so we're going to introduce an isometric here just because you may be able to lift this, but you're using your back to do it or something. We want to get as much of our body online as we can so that it all works together in beautiful harmony, okay? So isometric up into the hand, just for long enough for you to feel the hip stuff trying to hold. And then see if you can remove that hand. I'm still pressing this front knee down and use that engagement you just found to open. I like to squish my hands together so either squeeze a block or something to help me stay intense. Now, this knee is continuing to reach out. My knees are allergic to each other. I'm digging my heels into the floor, so I've got a contraction like I'm working on my butterfly guard. Reaching to the floor here. My knees are as far apart as I can. Keep a contraction on that back leg. We come here. So we're going to go right into round 2. So contracting here, butt is reaching back, belly is pulling forward. Active, active, active. Press into the ground. Don't move your upper body. Push into the floor. Find that change in direction in your hip. Crush the ground. Still haven't moved the upper body. Use that crush to press yourself back out. Keep pushing down. Open the back knee. Once they get as far apart as they can with no pain, open both. Start to reach for the ground with that front knee while you're keeping the back knee behind for as long as you can. Still digging into the floor as I pull myself down. I'm going to show this one as a regression, so I'm going to lean farther out to the side here. I'm going to pull in. pull my belly forward. Even if it's not a perfect healing in that front hip, you're still getting activity through this whole range. Now, from your bottom, press into the ground. Pushing through that whole leg, trying to drive it through the floor. Now crush the ground. Use that crush to push yourself back up. I'm showing the regress version where I'm using my hands to help support me. Keeping that push in the ground. Open your back knee. Keep them as far apart as you can. Opening up, reaching for the ground on that front leg with the back knee left behind. And then pull this down, keeping active through the ground. We choreographed this pretty well. Their placement here. All right, one more time, going back and forth. So you can do as many times as you want off camera, but we're gonna do one more time together. So squeezing everything, I'm gonna be as tall as I can and active as I can here. No pain or pinching. Bring that belly forward, butt reaches back. Totally engaged in this front leg. Belly comes forward more, chest is taller. From here, change direction. Shift into the ground, don't move your upper body yet. Ankle, shin, and knee are pressing down. Now crush the ground. Crush the ground more. If you had a walnut under your knee, you wouldn't stand a chance right now. Somebody's trying to pull a $50 bill off from under your shin. You are not letting that happen, right? Use that to press yourself back up. Keep that pressure, open the back knee. Keep them as far apart as you can. Keep pressure into the ground. Strong, strong, strong connection to the ground. Finally, the back leg has to come up. Reaching the front knee down, the new front knee down. Still contracting into the ground. I'm finding strength in this hamstring the whole range. This means that I'm working short range hamstring strength through the whole range by keeping that heel contraction to the ground. Finally, that comes down. Backside, contract the front leg. Reach the butt back. Tall chest, belly rolls forward. Find your bottom. I'm adjusting because I felt something pinch in my hip, so practicing what I preach. I just adjusted a little bit. Now, crush the ground, gradually pressing down. Now break through the floor without anything moving. Break through the floor harder. And double whatever effort you're doing now on that front leg. Use that to press yourself back up. Keep a contraction in your heels into the ground. Open the back knee or just return path. So you can say goodbye to the camera. Hold. Keeping them as far apart as you can without pain. Chest as tall as you can without pain. And without straining your back. Important, right? You can always go down. Heels are dug into the ground. And bring yourself back in. Great job. Stayed active through the whole thing. Good work. Okay, how do your hips feel right now?
Good.
Right? So it's just what I was saying about that active hamstring strength. By contracting my heel into the ground, I'm using the back of my leg, and we're going through a full range of motion. So if you think about, like, if I have butterfly guard and he's coming here, I'm probably strong right here, but if he starts to collapse my legs one way, I may not be able to resist it, or he clasps my legs the other way, I might not be able to resist it as much. We're working strength through that whole range so that you can have more active engagement and eventually stronger and stronger ability to deal with that stuff, okay? Yeah, so that's part one. Do a quick assessment of your hips, just seeing how you feel compared to what we did in the warm-up portion. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything, just kind of notice how it feels, and I won't try to bait you. Do you feel any different than you did in the warm-up?
For sure.
Cool. Awesome. Stuff works, guys! So this is introduction to your hips, and we will apply it even more directly to jiu-jitsu as we go on through the series, okay? So we have that to look forward to. Thank you so much for joining us.